Okay, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to walk you through the guided practice spreadsheet operations. So things we're going to do is we're going to perform a simple sort, perform a multiple sort, freeze panes, fill a series, and print a selection. And in doing this, I'm going to try to go kind of fast because I know that you can pause the video. Then that way you don't feel like I'm dragging on the parts that you already know. So the assignment that you're going to do is inside a Google Classroom. So open up the assignment titled GP More Formatting Basics 7, and that is your starting spreadsheet, which is what it told us to do in step 1. Now it's telling us to sort the data in descending order. So if you will recall, I've told you that when you are selecting data, that you only select the data with the exception of you also include the column headings that are associated with the data. So what I've selected is A3 through F15. And it tells us to sort this in descending order by employee name. So I'm going to click on the Data tab. I'm going to go to our sort that you see right here. I'm going to do sort by employee name as it told us. Keep in mind, I told you we do not use this in this class, and the order it told me to do it was in descending order. So when I press OK, it's going to put the employees' names in alphabetical order by last name. So when I press OK, you see that that's what it's done. But now we're going to do something that is new. We're going to do a primary and a secondary sort. What a primary and a secondary sort is, primary is the first thing that it's going to be sorted by. In this case, it's going to be hourly rate. After it sorts the hourly rate, we're going to go into a secondary sort and sort employee names. So we've got two sort levels in here we're going to do, and that's referred to as a primary and a secondary sort. So with our data still highlighted, we're going to go once again in the Data tab, come to our Sort feature. We already have employee name in here as Z to A. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change that to hourly rate, and as it told us in our sort, to do it in descending order, so that would be largest to smallest. We're going to come and add a level. So this would be our secondary sort, because first of all, it's sort by and then by. So this would be our secondary. Employee name, and it's telling us to do this in ascending order. So what's going to happen is you're going to see the largest hourly rate down to the smallest, and then this would be in alphabetical order. But what's going to happen is there's not going to be any alphabetical ordering of the names, because if you look here, nobody makes the same salary. So we just go simply largest to smallest. Now, if somebody made the same salary, then yes, it would then come over here and sort by A to Z. So we are going to make that happen. So we're going to come in here to Leonard Hausman, and we're going to change that to $10 versus $9. So now we have two people who make $10 an hour. And if you look, we have a James and a Hausman, and alphabetically, Hausman should come before James because that was our secondary sort in alphabetical order. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to re-perform that same primary secondary sort. That's our step 5. So with our data highlighted, let's go to the Data tab, let's go to Sort. Everything's already set up for us because it's the same sort. We're just basically refreshing. So I'm going to press OK, and when I do, Hausman is going to come before James because that is in alphabetical order. So if you look here at question 6, it's asking what happened and why. I just gave you the answer as to what happened and why. Now we're going to do something new. Freeze panes so that the column headings remain stationary when scrolling down to 100. So I'm going to click here under SS number, which is cell A4. When I start scrolling, you'll see everything starts moving down and we get blank cells. So since I've selected right here, I am now going to go to the View tab, and I'm going to do my drop down for freeze panes, and I'm going to choose the first one. Once I choose the first one, you'll see it activates a darker line up under our column headings. And when I start scrolling down, what happens is it keeps the column headings so we can continue to see if there's any data. If we had more employees, we'd be able to see what the column headings are that are associated without the column headings disappearing as they did before we froze the pane. So now what it's asking us to do is to unfreeze. So I'm just going to simply do the click down again and say unfreeze. Notice the dark line went away, and now everything starts scrolling back down again. Now it's going to tell us to do a row. I'm sorry, not a row, but a columns A and B. So I am going to come right here on my hourly rate. I could come up here and see because these are the two that I want to keep. So I could come to C1, C2, C3. Tells us freeze panes so that column A and B remain stationary when scrolling. Our best option is to actually come to C1, do the little drop down for freeze panes. Click on freeze panes. Notice the line this time went down the page. And as I start to move over, here's what's going to happen. The social security numbers and the employee names will stay. So that way, if you had additional data in there that took up more than what we have right now, you'd still be able to scroll over and be able to see the employee names. So if we continue to scroll down, it tells us to unfreeze panes. So once again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do the little drop down, say unfreeze panes. Notice our black line went away, and if I start scrolling over, you'll see that the names disappear because the panes are no longer froze. Now it's wanting us to key in some information. It says key January in cell K4 and use the fill series to fill down to K15. So I am going to scroll over just a little bit, and I'm going to click in cell K4. And I'm going to actually stretch out my screen a little bit so you can see K4 a little bit better. So I am going to do like I said, and I'm going to type in January with a capital J. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this fill handle to fill this information down. So when I say fill handle, it's the little green handle in the bottom right-hand corner. Notice when I move my mouse, if I hit the green handle, it goes from a white plus to a solid black plus. If I will click, hold, and drag down until I get to December, this is called a fill. And it's going to fill each month. So that is a shortcut that you can use, and that shortcut is called fill. And in the bottom right-hand corner, that little green box is called a fill handle. All right, so let's go back into our instructions again. It tells us to resort the data in alphabetical order by employee name. So this is our actual data right here. So I'm going to highlight the data again. I'm going to go back into the data tab and our sort. I am going to take hourly rate, click on that, and say delete level because it only wants us to do it in alphabetical order by employee name. And I'm actually going to hit cancel because one of the things I want to make sure is that I have the social security number. So don't make the same mistake that I did. If your screen's smaller, don't forget to scroll over. So I'm going to re-highlight my data. Make sure I'm in the data tab, come up here. I'm going to click on hourly rate, hit delete level. Now I just have employee name A to Z, and when I press OK, they're going to be in alphabetical order. And it tells us to print only the social security number and hourly rate information. So in doing this, we're not going to actually do a print. What I'm going to do is show you the results of what it is asking us to do. So I'm going to highlight this information right here because this is the information that it is telling us to print. And I'm going to come over here to my file. I'm going to click on that. I am going to say print. And right here where our settings, I'm going to do the drop down and I'm going to say print selection. So I want you to notice when I select print selection, it takes and it's only going to print what we selected. In this case, it was Social Security and employee name. And this is where you would go back, save the file, so it would save this information as your printed information. One of the things that it did tell us to do, so I'm going to go back in there, is to center the selection on the page horizontally and print grid lines and rows and column headings. So I'm going to come back, highlight this data, File, Print, make sure it's got my print selection. And it tells us to do it horizontally. So I'm going to go down here to page setup. And going to the page setup, I'm going to click on sheet. And if you look right here, there's a checkbox for print grid lines. So when I click on it, then I'm going to come over to the margins section. So I clicked on margins, and I'm going to do what it said horizontally. So if you look here, it's told us center the selection on the page horizontally and print grid lines and row column headings. So if we come back over here, it says row column headings. It's going to print that anyway because we selected it. But what I'm going to do is go ahead and check box it as if we had not selected it. And I'm going to press OK. And when I do, you'll see what happens is it centers it across the page. And then we have our numbers and our AB, which is something that you may want, you may not want. But column and row headings truly are just a social security number and employee name. But if you were to need this also, because we selected that checkbox, it will show up. Then all you're going to do is simply save it and upload it into Google Classroom. So when you save it as the same name. It does not matter to me whether you use save or save as long as you save it with this same name. And then it's just simply ready for you to upload in Google Classroom. And that is all we're going to do for guided practice spreadsheet operations.